Well, hey, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and AIM Testing Laboratory in beautiful El Cajon, California. And I am immutable. However, from time to time, Eric does mute me. So you don't really get to hear the best part because he always mutes that out. In any case, today we're talking about a topic that, as is often the case, comes through an email question. And this question had to do with a very small socket screw, about an M5, that had a special head on it. This head was not a low head. It was actually what's called a very low or extra low head. And as a result, this property class 12.9 socket screw was not capable of bearing very much load because of the head configuration. Now, some standards do a pretty good job of accommodating this situation. One of those standards is ISO 898-1, from which the 12.9 comes from, and it gives it a special term. That special term is reduced loadability, which kind of sounds like it should come out of a state of California firearms regulation, but this has nothing to do with firearms. It has to do with screws. And when we return, I will tell you about the intersection of reduced loadability and hydrogen embrittlement.
Knowledge is the key to success in the fastener industry, and the Fastener Training Institute has the tools you need to succeed. From advanced to beginners training courses, the Fastener Training Institute provides a wide variety of resources to boost your team's ability to operate at an elite level. Go to fastenertraining.org to see the schedule of online and in-person classes coming up, and reach out with any questions or requests for custom course materials. The Fastener Training Institute, fastenertraining.org. Quality products, quality service, quality customers. That's 3Q Inc., a fastener distributor unlike any you've worked with before. With its unique remote managed inventory stocking programs, wide array of secondary service offerings, and wholly owned cold forming capability, 3Q Inc. has been supporting fastener distributors since 2008. 3Q offers a wide range of 100% American-made fasteners, including ITW SEMS lock washers, as well as specialty and imported parts. Give 3Q a call today to discuss your needs and experience 3Q quality for yourself. 3Q Inc. www.3q-inc.com.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo finishing up with the Fastener Training Minute. Today, we're talking about reduced loadability. This concept is very important for those who use fasteners where we have a head configuration that's non-standard. That is, it's not a standard socket head cap screw or a hex head cap screw, but there's something about the head configuration and or the drive, the internal drive typically, that removes so much material from the head that the head does not have enough strength to take the full advantage of the strength of the fastener material. And in these cases, the standards call these fasteners reduced loadability fasteners. So we can't really take full advantage of the strength of the fastener. So we have to know how to accommodate this. In most cases, one of the more common ones, for example, is our standard alloy steel socket button and flat countersunk head screws from ASTM F835. In those cases, even though that screw has the same material that the socket head cap screw at 180 KSI would have in the smaller sizes anyway, we only can load it to 150 KSI because of the reduced loadability brought about by the head configuration. Now, we run into some other issues with this as well. In the metric world, in ISO 898-1, which we brought up earlier, they accommodate this very well in the testing standards. The testing part of ISO 898-1 tells us which products have reduced loadability and how we're to go about accommodating that during testing. But when we run into a part that has extreme reduced loadability, such as the extra low socket head cap screw, we can barely tighten that fastener down without breaking it. or sometimes we can't tighten it down at all anywhere near the desired load because the drive is so short and we can't get enough torque on it, even to tighten it to its reduced loadability capability. So one of the ways we can fix that is use a lubricant. In other words, a little bit of grease on the screw or a coating that has a very low K factor, reducing the friction, will give us some extra load for the same amount of torque. In the application situation, it's very common to see an engineer say, oh, I don't have room for a hex head, or I don't have room for a socket head. I'm going to go to a button head or a flat head, not realizing that those screws, even though they're made out of the same material and have the same characteristics in terms of strength as the standard screw, they can't bear the same load. We had a situation here recently with that very low socket screw, and we discovered the problem through a hydrogen embrittlement test. We were doing the stress durability test on that screw, and they failed. And in the process of seeing them fail, when the head came off, there was a hole right through the head where the socket was, and there was very little material at the head-body junction. So one of the things we have to be aware of is these reduced loadability screws, when they're from ASTM F835 or when they're from ISO 898-1 property class 12.9. In those two situations, we have an intersection of reduced loadability and hydrogen embrittlement, which makes these parts particularly susceptible to hydrogen embrittlement. So the reality is there is really no good reason to ever make a flat head or a button head screw or a low head socket screw out of this property class 12.9 or F835 material, because they're not capable of taking advantage of the load. So if I could turn things around a little bit here, I would go back and say, hey, let's fix these standards up and let's not make ourselves vulnerable to hydrogen embrittlement with these screws that are particularly vulnerable because they have this very small cross section at the head body junction, and thus we have reduced loadability. When we try to load them, we push them even further into the hydrogen embrittlement susceptibility zone. And in fact, this is borne out in reality because we see a lot of failures for hydrogen embrittlement with button heads and flathead screws of these high hardness values. Well, now you know everything there is to know about reduced loadability and the risk intersection of reduced loadability and hydrogen embrittlement. This has been Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Thank you for listening.